All right, everyone, welcome to Real Issues Podcast. I am your host, Martel Llewellyn, and today we have one of the Instagram legends. I would probably even say, like one of my brothers in blue. His name is Jason R. Lacayo, or known on Instagram as the Real Jumpman J. So,
Sir.
So Jason, just tell the people who you are, and then we'll actually just jump right into it.
Okay, my name is Jason Lacayo. I am a New York native, man, born and raised here. I am the son of two immigrants. My parents are both from Honduras. They came here in their early teens, had myself and my brother. We're both fortunately in law enforcement. So my father was in the military, he was in law enforcement as well. My mom was a nurse. So rightfully so, I wanted to jump into a career that served the public, my community. So I was hired by NYPD in 2005, July 11th of 2005. Worked there for about 2 years. And then I transferred over to my respective department now, which is the city of White Plains. So when I got over there, it was pretty much different culture, different lifestyle. So the calls of service went down, quality of life went up, obviously. That's the reason why I made the move. But it was more like, it's a big little city. I always say that because population wise, it's a big city, but a lot of the people that you would run into, working were generationally like born there, you know what I mean? Like grandparents, parents, so on. So, I've been there for 15 years now. So a lot of the kids that I saw when I came in are now adults. So I remember that was one of the things the senior officers told me, man, like, listen, this is completely different from the city. You're policing a community that you're going to have to get familiar with. And so I had to learn how to police just a little bit differently versus NYPD because it's a much bigger department. I mean, my police department is about 225 members strong versus NYPD, which is 40,000 members strong. So I just, had to learn how to really work on my just community-based skills because I didn't grow up in this city. I grew up in the same county, but I didn't grow up in this city. So I had to learn the city a little bit more.
Gotcha. Okay, so how has community policing kind of like impacted you? Because like you said, it's like you're knowing kids from the ages of 5 and then now they're like 15 years old. So
yeah,
for people from that look on like the outside, like how important is community policing, not only to your police department, but all over?
it's imperative that we have that and that we implement it because that's the backbone of police work. You know what I'm saying? Knowing the community that you work in and understanding the community that you work in. Like culturally, socioeconomic wise, you need to know what you're dealing with before you jump into something. Because, we have the right to use discretion, right? I think every police officer has that opportunity. And I feel like if you know the community that you're policing, it puts you in a better position because you can come into a situation where, you may have a kid or, unruly subject, whatever have you, and you have a rapport with them, you can quickly diffuse it, because you spent that time getting to know the people in your community. So I think it's huge, especially now with all this police reform, just, being able to understand and know the community that you work in. I think you can come into situations and really de-escalate. And that's what we really want to do. We don't want to take it to a place where we have to use lethal force. I can speak for myself and other police officers that I know. I think that's the last thing that we want to do. So, being embedded in the community and understanding, who we're policing and why we're doing what we're doing, I think it really makes our job a lot easier.
Gotcha. And you're a 17-year vet, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm almost out the door.
Almost out the door. Okay, so
almost, yeah.
What I'm really going to try and focus on is because since you have so much knowledge, like an experience, I'm really going to try and focus on newer officers. So for the people who are just trying to become a police officer, what are now you don't have to go into like crazy detail, but what are some things that would help them on the polygraph and the psychological testing?
So here they don't do a polygraph. They do a psychological, they do a written, and they do an oral. The best thing I could say is just be yourself, man. Try to, I always say this when you go into these psychological exams, when you do the written, just answer as honest as possible. When you sit down and do the oral, I always say sit down and envision a conversation that you would have with your parents. I always say that, right? So, just try to be as upfront and honest as possible. And that'll help you navigate, that particular portion of the exam.
And then since the competition with being a police officer can sometimes be tough, what are some things that will make you stand out like as an applicant?
I always say, have a personality. You know what I mean? Because this job is built for an A-type personality, but I feel like if you show them that you have, some level of empathy, critical thinking, things of that nature, because a lot of the times when they interview you, they'll ask you some questions. And I feel like if you just go through the cookie cut, mundane answers that most of these other recruits are giving them, they kind of will just, I don't want to say throw you to the wayside, but you just fall into the pile of like the norm. Just try to do something to help you stand out just a little bit more. I think critical thinking is huge. If you can express the fact that you can use critical thinking and you're good on your toes, I think that puts you in a better position to be hired.
Okay, and then so since I'm the first police officer that is in my family, there's a lot of other people that they're going to face the same way. So what are some ways for new cadets to prepare themselves to go to the academy? Because if they don't really have anyone, that's in their ear or to tell them what to expect, I mean, because YouTube can only get you so far. So,
absolutely.
So what are some tips for people that are starting the academy?
Just come in mentally strong, man, because you really have to reprogram yourself, especially if you're young. So when I became a police officer, I was 22 years old. So I was a baby, literally. And I had to grow up very fast. So when, you have to separate yourself from the people that are still doing the stuff that they were doing when they were in high school, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can potentially get in trouble, potentially terminated, whatever have you. You really want to just come in mentally strong, because what the academy does is they try to, break you down to build you back up, to deal with the public, especially now. Newer officers are dealing with a different climate than I dealt with, 17 years ago. Social media is very huge. There's a lot of anti-police rhetoric when you turn on the television and on social media platforms. So I know that might get into the head of a young recruit or a person who's looking to get into this line of work. You have to come in mentally strong, and then you have to prepare, your body, because obviously in the academy, there's going to be PT, and you don't want to be a guy that's in the back of the pack or be a person that's in the back of the pack. You want to be with your group, because that's where you build a camaraderie. That's where you understand the job. And I think that's where you start to dig your boots in, dig your heels into the ground and figure out what type of police officer you want to be. So just come in mentally strong, physically prepared. I think it's the best way to attack going into the academy.
And then transitioning from the academy to real life, because to be honest, I think one of the biggest struggles with all police officers is you could be really good in the academy. You can get all the A's, you can do all the push-ups, but then transferring that into real life and applying it to the road, how can newer officers apply what they learned from the academy to the road? Because sometimes their training, like when they get to their department after the academy, there's some departments, it's like a one and done. Like you do 2 days, like, like in the PD, and then boom, you're on the road.
Wow.
Yeah. So how can you give some advice to people, like, especially like in Broward County, because that's where I'm from, where there's some police departments, they really only have maybe a week or two of the in-house training and they're on the road. So how can they transition from the cadet to the police officer?
Just knowing your career path, knowing what type of police officer you want to be. Like I had a very specific plan when I became a police officer. I wanted to do patrol work. Then I wanted to get in some kind of specialized unit, because the patrol work is obviously the backbone of doing police work, right? So being a patrol officer, you learn your sector, you learn the paperwork, you learn the community, you learn your respective department. Then you have to figure out, from that point, all right, now what is exactly the things that I want to do as a police officer? So me, I wanted to be a proactive guy, which I did. I was in a proactive unit for about 5 years, and then I wanted to become a tactical officer. So I was like, all right, well, let me start picking the brains of older officers that were on my department and in these units, and I kind of figured out what my path was. So the best thing I could tell a new recruit, when making the transition, is find someone that you feel you admire or you respect, and then pick their brain if they allow you to pick their brain. Because I had some pretty good FTOs, I can't lie, and those guys really helped me mold my career and then figure out what it is exactly that I wanted to do. Some guys want to come in this job and be a TAC guy. Some guys want to be bosses and take tests and boss up. Some guys just want to be detectives. Figure out what line of what course of action you need to take to become whatever type of police officer you want to be.
And then what are some some mistakes that you see newer officers making?
Just being a little bit too overzealous. I always say when you come into a call, slow things down. You don't want to, you don't want to come into a call on a 10. I always say if you walk into a room and you give the person respect, I think that person will in turn give you that respect as well. Sometimes, and that doesn't happen in all cases, but 9 times out of 10, if you start at a 1 and then you build from there, if it has to go to a 10, then it goes there. But if you come in on a 10, it's very hard to bring it down versus starting here and then working your way up. So just come in with a level of respect and understanding that, you might walk into somebody's house who's having, we see people at their worst, right? And you're walking into their home, or you're walking into a situation where they feel they have ownership, right? So just try to give them a little bit of respect and listen to them, and go from there. Don't just come in because you wear a uniform doesn't make you any more different. We're still human beings. So just have that human side of the badge, man, and just really listen to people. Sometimes some people just want to be heard, man. So slow things down, don't be overzealous, and have a little bit of empathy, and then you work from there.
And then, like, in terms of politics, because to be honest, politics is something that runs every single police department. And like you said, so since you are a decorated officer, how did you maneuver through the politics in terms of promotion, joining the SWAT team? Because to be honest, sometimes you got to be clicked up to get into some of those groups. So how did you maneuver it, and how did you also maintain a healthy career with politics around you to whatever level they may be?
I just try to be as authentic as possible, man. I feel like you can't beat authenticity, man. At the end of the day, if you go out there and you do what you're supposed to do, every day you go to work, your hard work will definitely be noticed. There's going to be cliques in politics and everything that you do, man. And, whether you're in the in crowd or the out crowd, I feel like your character will determine the trajectory of your career. So if you're going out there and you're a solid police officer, there's no way they could deny you a specific position or whatever have you. But if you're a so-so police officer, like if we all have those days where you come in and you don't want to do anything or whatever have you. You really just got to wake up and put your best foot forward, man. Because I feel like that is what has gotten me to where I am exactly today. I stayed true to what I wanted to do and who I am as a human being, and the work spoke for itself.
Got you. And then now that we're going to transfer over from law enforcement to all the other stuff that you do, could you just explain to the people, I know that you've been in some Netflix shows, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you could just tell the people, what you do on social media, any other business ventures that you might have.
So yeah, I'm what you consider a quote unquote influencer. I've done some reality TV, like you said, Netflix. I did in 2018 and actually 2019. I'm sorry. I had a few other options. I was in the movie Pride and Glory in 2006 with Colin Farrell. I was an extra there. Being in this line of work can open up a lot of doors for you. So I always tell people, you're going to meet some people through just work that'll put you in positions to better yourself as a person and in your career. So, that has helped me out tremendously. I also run several podcasts. I run the podcast for the gym that I work at. I was a CrossFit level 1 instructor at my gym, and the owner of the gym was like, "Hey, man, I know you're involved in some podcasts. Would you like to run a podcast for the gym?" I said, "Absolutely." So I helped them, conduct the podcast there. I also work for a non-for-profit organization called Reps for Responders, where we deal with the mental health of first responders, and we give them resources. So if anyone's out there and struggling with some mental health issues, or maybe just trying to figure out how you can get access to a gym to move your body and better yourself, you can go to Reps for Responders on Instagram. It's reps_for_responders, and we can allocate some resources to you. And then I also have my personal podcast, which is called Behind the Mic, and we talk about issues just like you and I are talking about right now. And then I have some people in different lines of work. I had a published artist who was on my show. I had a few rappers on my show. So just being in tune with the community and the people that I grew up with and people that understand me for who I am.
And then how did you build your social media following? Because especially in these days, social media, especially in podcasts, it's so overly saturated. So how are you able to grow within, and because like you have to be able to separate good quality content versus someone who's just trying to make some money. So how did you grow your social media content?
Just staying authentic, man. Just really just trying to be the best person I can be. I think people gravitate towards authenticity, man. And I've been doing this for a long time, dude. This is my second account. My first one got hacked and deleted. I've been doing this a long time, man, and I've been very involved in the law enforcement community. Actually, there's another company that I work with. It's called O2X, and they actually do some stuff with Broward County sheriffs. And what basically what O2X does is it teaches first responders how to, live and operate in that tactical athlete realm. So when I use that word tactical athlete, that term tactical athlete, it's anyone that's in our line of work, military, first responders, and so on, and just dealing with the nuances that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and how to, mitigate stress, how to, properly, eat and sleep and things of that nature. So, when you get embedded in this type of work, this is a very tight-knit community that especially now the law enforcement community is extremely tight. And I think that's how I started to build my connections and my notoriety on social media.
Okay, and then with all this stuff that you're going on, you have a full-time job, you got multiple businesses, multiple podcasts. How do you separate and how do you manage, family time, wife time, kid time with your work, like your shifts? Like how can you tell someone who's starting out, like some advice to help manage all of the, like some of those things going on?
You got to prioritize. If something's important to you, you're going to make time for it. If it's not important to you, then you're going to put it on the back burner. So just realizing what is important to you, what means the world to you and your family, then you got to start to allocate the time, to those things. Because I think a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure you can speak for this yourself, is when you get on this job, you get embedded in this job. Everybody just wants to be a police officer, right? So you jump in, head first, and then next thing you know, you're like, damn, I just did, 2 doubles. I didn't I didn't spend any time with my family or my friends, and you kind of get in over your head a little bit. So just making sure that you're taking the time to prioritize what's important to you and what you hold near and dear to your heart, man. And just don't let this job consume you. Because at the end of the day, right, you work whatever hours you work, right? Whether you work an 8-hour tour, a 12-hour tour, when you take that uniform off, you still have to go and be the person that you were before you put that uniform on. So just, keeping that at the forefront, I think will help you navigate through this.
Okay. And then why do you think so many police officers neglect physical fitness?
I will say this. When I first got on, that wasn't part of the culture. This is going back like 17 years ago. But now I feel like a lot of the younger police officers are now eating a lot better.
Yeah, training.
And they're training. So and I think you're going into this job now knowing that there's a inherent risk, especially now with this climate, right? I feel like every time we turn on the television, we're hearing about some, a school shooting or a mass shooting somewhere, or police officers being injured in the line of duty. So I think that puts, it puts it in the forefront of people's minds. And I feel like a lot of officers now are starting to like, hey man, maybe I need to, eat a little better, train, keep myself in physical shape, just in case something happens. We always got to train for the what if, you know what I'm saying? Because 9 times out of 10, you go to work and that what if situation doesn't happen. But that one time it does, you want to be ready for it. I feel like a lot of guys, what happens is they get so embedded in a job that they forget that, because we do this to earn a living. So a lot of guys, they chase a check. So if you're sitting there, you're working your doubles, right? And you're doing whatever it is you're doing, you're working ridiculous amounts of overtime. You're not prioritizing sleep. You're not prioritizing training or nutrition. So, just getting in over your head, you got to slow down. I'm always going to be repetitious with that. Slow things down and realize that, your job relies on your body and your mind.
Absolutely.
So you need to, your life too, you know what I'm saying? So you need to prioritize keeping those things in order, keeping your mind sharp, keeping your body sharp, and, making sure that you're training and you're understanding what you're doing with your, with your body.
Okay. And then before we wrap it up, just plug yourself one more time, give all your business ventures, just so that people can find you and kind of learn more about you.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, The Real Jumpman J. My podcast, my personal podcast is Behind the Mic podcast. You can find us on Spotify. We're working our way over to Apple Music. I am also on Inside the Labyrinth podcast, which is associated with a non-for-profit Reps for Responders that I plugged earlier. You can find both of those on Instagram. I also work with a company called O2X, which is a tactical athlete company. You can find us as well on Instagram at O2X Performance. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it, dude. You can find me. My email's attached to my social media. So if anybody's looking for like a training template or anything like that, I provide that for first responders as well.
Okay, and all of that will be like in the link below. And what are your short-term goals and your long-term goals?
Ooh, okay, short-term goals. Short-term, because it's right there. I could see it is retirement, man. Just getting to retire.
There, man.
And just enjoying life. The second chapter of life, I always say, because I figured out what my passion was, and I was just helping others, right? So just being able to continue what I'm doing now, because I personal train, I podcast, I do those kind of things. So I want to attack that head on when I retire. So that's a short-term goal. My long-term goal is just to try to stay as healthy as possible, man, and try to start a family. So that's like the long-term goal. I don't have any children right now, and that's going to be first order of business.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for just pouring out like your 17 years of wisdom and experience. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate you. And once again, please follow him on all of his social media links, all of his podcast ventures, all of his business ventures. And once again, thank you for coming to the Real Issues Podcast. I am your host, Martel Llewellyn. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate you.